at some stage, I can't say exactly when, but I jumped off onto the ground and tried to walk, and that's when I realised I'd taken bloody half my leg off.
Charlie wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
No way.
They said both flights were obviously critical, and time dependent. So yeah, and like I said, she wouldn't be with us today if we didn't have LifeFlight. So.
First thing he said was call 000, and then I looked at him and he had blood all over his body and dirt, and so I called 000 and they kept me on the line until they got here, till the ambulance got here, and then they took over and they did all they had to do to him and took him away, and that was the last I saw of him.
They actually ended up strapping him to me, so I laid and he was laying on top of me, and we were secured in, and they hooked up all of the things that he needed for the flight. They talked to us about what would happen if anything went wrong, and yeah, it was as hard as it was really reassuring, because we knew that they were exactly the people we needed at this time. So
we live about 10 k's out of Kingaroy on the Cumbia Road, and so if my day was a normal day, I worked most days of the week, Sunday, and it was fine weather, so we were going to harvest Debocia. My brother was there at the time giving a hand. The Debocia harvester cuts trees off about knee high off the ground. So there was a small hiccup there, and I was pulling branches out up here that was stuck in the gadget. And there's usually a lot of leaves sit on here, so you pick them up here and just toss them into that up there. So I was standing on here, and I gave way under my foot, and then continued then to cut my leg off. This machine here goes round and round and is what cuts the billets into 3-inch lengths. While I was on there, I jumped off onto here, onto the ground, and then I tried a couple of times and couldn't walk, and that's when I realised I'd taken bloody half my leg off.
So they were absolutely brilliant. The LifeFlight people, the care and the way they treated you and everything like that, the way they treated me, and the LifeFlight crew said, no, you're more than welcome to come all the way up till we close the doors. So yeah, they were absolutely wonderful, very compassionate.
So we got 4 kids, just live outside of Kingaroy. Dan just started his fencing business. We were in the first 12 months of that, and I work casual, part-time locally. Kids 3 go to school, and Charlie was at daycare 3 days a week whenever I was at work. Just a normal family trying to have a go, have our little hobby farm.
Yeah. I was in town running some errands when I got the call from Tisha to say that Charlie's face had swollen up and she was going to take her to emergency.
I just went in to check Charlie. She was still asleep, and I noticed her face was just swollen on one side. So I quickly put her in the car, rushed her into emergency. They had done a couple of tests, x-ray, and noticed that she had a collapsed lung. Took her a few hours to get her stabilised. So it was a care team from QCH with a doctor and a nurse that come and made her stable enough to get on RACQ LifeFlight. We got on that, and we actually went to Sunny Coast. But it wasn't life-threatening at this point. It was just like, collapsed lung. She'll be away for a week. It was through that night she was just not getting any better, and they were like, something is up. her heart rate was just like 190 and they could not get it down with. So they called in a Dr. Paula. Geez, you know, something's not right here. So obviously made that call to Dan.
So they basically discovered that she had sepsis. She had
Golden staph.
golden staph.
So she had the RSV, which then she got a golden staph infection, which was shutting her body down because it was untreated. So that being untreated led to sepsis, and then she ended up with double pneumonia, pus on the heart, lots of other medical terms.
But
yeah.
so then obviously we were told for the second flight to Brisbane with RSC Care Flight that because of Charlie's condition that there wasn't a parent allowed to go in the chopper. So
that flight had to go really low too because of her face was still puffed up, so they had to be really careful.
It was not...
even that was like risky. So being in that chopper, being at a high...
altitude, yeah.
Yeah, because of a collapsed lung, so...
Yeah, it was a slower flight than what they would generally have to, for the reasons how sick she was, so yeah. And they had, like you said, 2 doctors on there, plus the nurses, so that's the reason why Letitia couldn't go in the chopper with her. So QCH, I had to sit down with the doctor and the surgeons, sign some paperwork, and they alleviated a little bit more information on the condition to us then, but we were given a 50-50 chance then and there that Charlie might not have made it out of the surgery. So.
If LifeFlight were not a thing in Queensland, Charlie wouldn't be here today.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, the day started off normal, like any other day, and I had prepared to arrange to sell cattle, to take cattle to the sale on the Monday for Tuesday's sale. And I've got a property out at Ferris Road, and I carted 1 load of cattle from there to the sale yards, and then I came home to prepare the ones in the yard, like in the house block here. And I had a bit of trouble with one of the heifers. She was a bit, wouldn't stand still or anything to get the ear tag put in. And I haven't got a really good crush set up, head bale set up like I have at the other place. So I climbed up on this gate, and I finished up, somehow lost my footing and I fell in underneath them. And this is it part where I crawled out. So that's where you crawled out? That's where I crawled out under there.
Is that where you dug a little bit?
I scratched at the dirt because it didn't have all this grass here at the time. And I scratched dirt there to make sure that I could fit under. And just I didn't have too big a belly, otherwise I mightn't have got there. I come out and I stood up, and I walked down. I took this rail out, let the cows out, and this gate here would have been shut. And I opened that so the cattle could get out, and my ute was parked just outside the gate.
Yeah.
Then opened the gate,
And then literally...
went back and got in the ute, drove the ute through to there, closed the gate, and then drove over to the house to get help.
He come in, rushed in and sat down on that chair, and I turned around to look at him because I thought, oh, he must be finished what he was doing. And anyway, he said, first thing he said was call 000. And then I looked at him and he had blood all over his body and dirt, and so I called 000 and they kept me on the line until they got here, till the ambulance got here.
They arrived pretty quick, and there was 2 ambulances and 4 crew, 2 in each vehicle, and they obviously they must have thought it was going to be a serious injuries and that, so they organised for LifeFlight, and when they took me to the hospital, the LifeFlight helicopter was already there, and I was quite conscious the whole time. I was sore, but I was conscious and heard everything that was said, and because they had to stabilise me because both my lungs were collapsed and they didn't know what other internal injuries I had, and it made me feel really comfortable. You know, the doctor, just his appearance and what he said just showed me that he knew what he was talking about, and I felt that I was in good hands. I woke up in ICU on Wednesday afternoon, so this happened on the Monday, and I woke up on Wednesday afternoon, so I didn't even sort of remember the flight down at all. If LifeFlight wasn't available at the time, I don't know whether I would have survived. Like, there's no specialist doctors here, even though we have good doctors here, but you know, I think LifeFlight probably saved my life. That's how I feel about it anyway, and I'm very proud of them.
Lockie and I have 2 beautiful children. Lewis is 8.5 and Frankie is 6. We've lived on the property for, Lockie's been here his entire life, but we've lived here together for about 12 years now. This is Lockie's grandparents' house, so we are making our own memories with our own family. It's nice to have that heritage and that connection to his grandparents, and
so we've been on the property here for nearly 40 years now. I'm 3rd generation, and yeah, it's great to bring the kids up in a rural setting and, you know, get them out of town and get them dirty and swinging dams and doing all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's been really good. So the afternoon of Lewis's accident, he'd spent the day with his grandmother, my mother, and I'd finished work for the day, and Emma had finished work teaching in Kingaroy. Yeah, Louis was running around and having fun, and he was only 18 months old, 20 months old, so yeah, you could imagine a little farm kid at that age. He's pretty energetic, so he was running around and patting some of the horses, and
he was sort of up against the fence and patting the horses, which is something he'd done 1,000 times before. We had no indication that anything would be any different to any other time we'd been there, and in a really quick moment he ducked down under the bottom rung of the barbed wire and climbed under and got into the yard with the horses. We immediately, I think my heart just stopped. I'm not sure I even breathed for, it just seemed like forever. Lockie's sister, whose horses they were, she knew immediately. She moved towards the fence and calmly, she knew if Louis saw her that he'd think it was a chasey game and wanting to play, so she really calmly got herself through the barbed wire fence and was in the yard with him. And just as she had predicted, when Louis saw her, he sort of, I do remember him squealing and giggling and thinking it was great, and he took off away from her and ran right behind one of the horses, and was not even a second, and the horse just didn't want him there and kicked him in the head. He just hit the ground, and we thought he had been killed instantly. He didn't move. I think as soon as we had got to the hospital, they had already made contact with the LifeFlight and let them know that we would need a transport from the hospital. They said it would be a little while, but later we found out that there had been 3 children under 3 from our region airlifted that night from, I think it was the southwest region, down to the Children's Hospital in Brisbane. So I remember laying in the bed next to Louis in emergency and hearing the chopper fly over, and I immediately just felt, I think we had this enormous sense of relief that he was getting to where he needed to be. They explained everything to us really clearly about what would happen, what the process was. I ended up going in the chopper with Louis. They actually ended up strapping him to me, so I laid and he was laying on top of me, and we were secured in, and they hooked up all of the things that he needed for the flight. They talked to us about what would happen if anything went wrong, and yeah, it was, as hard as it was really reassuring, because we knew that they were exactly the people we needed at this time. So yeah, the level of comfort and reassurance and that's what we needed. That is exactly what we needed at that time. So yeah, they were amazing.
I guess you find comfort just knowing that those guys deal with much worse situations every day in their job, and what they came to deal with, like, you know, Louis was stable and monitored and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, knowing when they turned up that, you know, he was in the best care that he could be in, and it was only a short trip down to, you know, the best hospital in the state. So.
Yeah, we've been swimming, kayaking, doing lots of fun stuff. Playing in the mud, running around, going down the paddocks and riding bikes with the dog and stuff. Thank you, LifeFlight, for everything you do for our family and everyone else.
Thank you very much, everyone, for coming to the dinner tonight and listening to our story. We thank you for digging deep. Charlie wouldn't be here today if everyone like yourselves, just every single person didn't donate. Every dollar counts, and we appreciate you listening. Thank you.
There's raffles here tonight to support LifeFlight. They're such a vital part of our community and such an asset to have, and without their assistance there'd be a lot of people in trouble. So people, feel free to dig deep and donate to a really worthy cause.